fear is in the now. I'm learning how. Fast life, no thanks, no I'm doing just fine. One foot in another, floating, enjoying my free.
And the liver energy is very ascendant, so it moves upward and outward. That being said, it's a very aggressive energy. Not aggressive, negative, or positive, just aggressive in the sense that it's got to take a little seed and push it up towards the sky. So we have to give it that credit that there's a lot of energy behind it. It's a push. So when it's stagnant, which it has been very dramatically globally for this season, naturally you want to be mating, you want to be flirting, you want to be outside, you want to create. It's about renewal. Spring is about rebirth and renewal and being outward. And we weren't allowed to do any of that. Exercise was essential. Like exercise that is about running or dancing or, pushing it outward. Doing yoga and being very precise is not great when you're stagnant. It actually makes you a little bit more stagnant. So what you would want to do is like wind sprints or dancing, unchoreographed dancing, and having a great time in that way and being out and being social and being expressive. It's about expression, really. Because if you think about what a full bloom is, it's expression, right? So comes from a little tiny seedling and then turns into a flower. So out to the fingertips. The liver is involved in the smooth flow of chi of the body. So that means emotional chi and physical chi. If there's stagnation emotionally, you'll probably oscillate between two different emotions, usually depression and anger. Those are usually the ones that you stay within. The emotion that goes along with the liver is anger. But if it's suppressed, because it moves chi emotionally and physically, if it's stagnant, you'll see systems start to get depressed. And then other organ systems can get involved. So for mental health issues, if you see yourself oscillating between those two, more than likely you have some form of liver chi stagnation. That is just what it does energetically with Chinese medicine. And then you have what it does with Western medicine. It does glycolysis at night, which basically breaks down all residual sugars while you sleep. This is why you need to sleep. Because if you don't, you can't actually convert anything and you wind up putting on fat stores because you can't convert the sugars into usable. So if you look at what it does as far as toxicity, anything you put through your system goes through your liver. But it's an amazing regenerative organ. You can cut it in half and it regrows. But we also beat it. So if we go back to the Chinese medicine side of it, and that's kind of the side I really want to talk about, is because once you understand what it does, you can use it to your advantage. So in the springtime, when you start to see that I want to say agitation, because it is kind of an agitation, but it's not necessarily bad. You need to put that into an expression of something, whether it be physical output, whether it be creativity, whether it be working with your emotions and having yourself be heard is another part of it. So it doesn't always have to be, you have to go get acupuncture, you have to do herbs, you have to do a liver detox. Sometimes I think also liver detoxes are actually dangerous if you're not under supervision. Chinese medicine, all medicine, whether it be natural or not, let's rewind that. Natural medicine is still medicine. I'm going to repeat that again. Natural medicine is still medicine. So even if it's herbal, if you're not sure what you should be taking, you shouldn't be taking anything. There's too many people taking things that just because it's now become mainstream doesn't mean it's meant for you. Medicine is not one size fits all, and that goes for Chinese medicine, integrative medicine, Western medicine, all of it. So just be mindful of taking herbs for the liver if you don't know what you're taking. When it comes to taking care of the liver, getting sleep before 11 a.m. is important. 11 p.m. is really important. The time of the liver is from 11 till 1 o'clock in the morning. It's when the body does most of its processes. So if you're up late at night and drinking between 11 and 1, which depending on what city you live in is very possible, you're actually putting your liver into a deficit. You're overloading it because it's got to break down all your sugars that you just took in through alcohol. Most alcohol has a lot of sugar. Then it's got to break down the alcohol. So sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I still feel kind of drunk, I don't feel well, especially as you get older, your body couldn't break down both of them. So you overloaded it. The liver also rules the eyes. So screen time. After 10 o'clock, you want to get off a screen because it's straining your liver energy and the liver blood that nourishes your eyes when you're on a computer screen. And especially if you're doing it late night between 11 and 1 o'clock in the morning. So those are some quick tips. Just get off the computer screen, lay off the sugar and the alcohol. The other thing is if you do want to drink alcohol, stick with vodka or really good tequila. It's really, really low in sugar. No mixers, a little bit of soda water on the rocks. I know you're not going to all give up alcohol, but just knowing what is better for you is always helpful. And obviously drink a ton of water. It helps. As far as exercise, wind sprints. Do you guys know what wind sprints are? No? So it's like running, but you don't actually do long distance. It's like, do you ever see a kid just run down a park and then they stop and they can't catch their breath and then they catch their breath and then they run again? That's essentially a wind sprint. If you do that for 20 minutes, like over and over again, it's very childlike. It's expressive. It's not confined. It's not like, oh, I need to run 6 miles. That's the last thing you want to do, is give like a lot of conformity to the liver when it needs to express itself. That's why dancing's so great, because it's really an expression of yourself from the center all the way out to your fingertips. And it just makes you feel better. If you look in deep in Native American history and their medicine, there's a proverb of when somebody went to the medicine man and said, I don't feel well. And the first thing he asked was, when did you stop dancing? Dancing is really important for health. It's very expressive and it's emotional, and nobody can tell you how to do it. It's from the center all the way out. It's who you are. And even if you look like an idiot, who cares? It's really about just letting things move. I call it shaking out your demons, because you really are shaking out stuff that you can't get rid of any other way. So dance is a really great way to express the liver qi. Also Qigong. Are you guys familiar with Qigong? It's similar to Tai Chi. They're in the same family. You can go on YouTube at any given point and look up Qigong. There's different styles, and there's different styles for different organs. So if you looked up liver Qigong, you would see a protocol very specifically to help with the liver qi. And that is exactly what Qigong is designed for. It's like yoga of the Chinese medicine world. It cultivates qi, but it also moves qi. So if you're ever feeling really, really stagnant, that's another really easy tool that's at your fingertips all the time. Those are the basics for quick tweaks, is going to bed before 11, making sure you're not overloading your system with a lot of toxicity. Also, sometimes it's a great idea to take a break from supplementation. I know everybody wants to put supplementation in their mouth because we're very much accustomed to the Western medicine system, which is you have to constantly take things, right? We've got kind of used to that. It's not necessarily true. Sometimes you need to take a break from all things. And also going to nature. So the element of the liver is wood. What is wood but trees? So anytime you're feeling really angsty and you feel like you're agitated, or things aren't like moving, or you're like, I don't know why I'm in such a mood. If you can get to trees and green, you're helping the liver energy, and you're helping move it, because that is its element. So those are some quick tips. What it does the liver also rule? It also has a lot to do with menstruation, which is why PMS is so completely integrated with liver qi stagnation. So if you are getting periods and you're like, I feel like I want to rip someone's face off, this is not normal, you probably have a good amount of liver qi stagnation. So some of these things you can start to apply and that'll help. Also go see an acupuncturist. Acupuncture for moving liver qi is really essential if it's really bad. Those are small things to keep your liver healthy during springtime. But if it's gotten so disordered, you're going to need some outside help. It's because it can really affect your relationships. It can affect your period. It can affect your digestion. The liver, when it gets agitated, will also lash out at other organs, usually the weaker organs, which is usually the digestive system. It can also move upward towards the heart if there's heat in the liver, which usually happens if somebody's got liver qi stagnation, then adds too much heat. And that turns into liver yang rising, and that goes into the heart. So it can cause anxiety, heart palpitations, headaches, stuff like that. So eye twitches, that's all a different diagnosis, but it's also liver related. Does anybody?
So I see a bunch of, hold on, Graciela has been very active.
All right.
So hold on, let me see if she has a question. Oh, Graciela, do you want to just comment maybe here? I'll unmute you and then you just speak.
Unmute myself. Okay, I will try to explain. I had also some questions you sent by email.
Yes,
okay.
You do ask them. Mm-hmm.
Now I forgot. Well, one of my questions was regarding the link between the liver and the sexuality. If there is a link.
It's huge. It's immense. Because the liver is so involved with reproduction and menstruation, especially for women. So, another thing to move liver qi is orgasm. Isn't that wonderful, right? If you're like, oh my God, I'm about to kill someone, have an orgasm. It's qi release, right? If you have a lot of stagnation, you will have difficulty with not necessarily desire, because that actually comes from the kidneys, but expression. So if you're really stagnant, you're going to have a little bit more problems orgasming if you're really stagnant. And if there's a lot of emotional stuff going on. Sexuality has to do with the liver and the kidneys. So it's not just one organ system. It's a little more complex than that. But it does have a lot to do with menstruation. It has a lot more to do with menstruation, which is about how the flow of the blood moves, right? Is it cramping? Are you having really weird periods? Are you really emotional? Are you really breast tenderness? Like that's liver. So it's about the movement of the blood. Sexuality, it's just about the ability to express yourself sexually. Yeah. So that's where it comes in a sexuality kind of way. Desire is about the kidney. If you don't have desire, the kidney energy is too weak. But the kidney is the mother of the liver. So if the mother is weak, the liver is disordered. Like, have you ever seen a child who has zero boundaries, or the mother's too tired to give to it? You usually have an unruly child or a very deficient child. So sometimes you need to look at the organ system that is actually the mother to the organ system that's damaged. Western medicine doesn't look like at this at all. This is very much Eastern. Gynecologists, unfortunately, in Western medicine have learned very little about women's reproductive health or sexuality or anything else. I see it here in the States a lot. It's really unfortunate. Women's healthcare is subpar because we're complicated. We're definitely complicated creatures, but there's not a lot of investment into learning about us as complicated creatures medically. And birth control is the standard fix for pretty much everything these days when women go to the gynecologist. You got bad cramps, let's put you on birth control. You've got this, let's try birth control. It's like the answer for everything. And copper IUDs are better than the hormonal, but they're rough, and it is copper. So some women actually have problem with copper, and they don't know it until they have it in for about 4 or 5 years. And then you're starting to see inflammation because it affects the muscles. So, and it's a natural process for you to have a period. So they tell you you don't need it, but you were designed to have one. So you know, it's a different way of viewing the body completely. The liver is very much involved in menstruation. So if you've got problems with your menstruation, there's three organs: the spleen, the liver, and the kidney.
Right.
The spleen helps release the blood and on time and properly. It's like sometimes you'll bleed for a day and then all of a sudden it'll disappear, or you spot for 4 days before you get your period. That's actually abnormal. That's showing that you have a weakened spleen and digestive system. And usually you'll see a correlation between digestion and periods that are very like choppy. They bleed, they stop, they start again. That's very much the spleen. When you see really heavy duty cramping and breast tenderness and aggravation and PMS, that's usually very much the liver. They're usually related though. You'll probably see more than one organ system. It would be nice if everybody was textbook and one organ system was damaged, but there is a relationship between all of them. So we're always kind of putting everything back into balance.
How about men? I mean, how does
I know men just get overlooked. Same thing. So the liver Qi stagnation actually can cause infertility in men. Motility aspects, right? So you have issues with motility and fertility, and not morphology so much, but sperm count, as well as motility, which can all be improved, because a lot of times you're seeing men come in for infertility and they've got low sperm count and they've got low motility. Their morphology is okay. You can't change their morphology through Chinese medicine, but what you're seeing is high levels of stress. Right? Men are stressed out just as much as women are. And right, probably more so right now because they don't know where they belong in society. So it's even more so. And then you also have computers where they're holding the stuff in their pockets right next to their testicles. So it's affecting the liver specifically by damaging the organ systems that it's related to. Men will see the same things. They just won't see period issues, right? But they have aggravation, frustration. They get a lot of anxiety. What I've noticed with men is they don't get as necessarily as aggravated. They start having panic attacks. When the liver is really stagnant, men tend to be hotter in nature. So the liver, when it gets stagnant for men, tends to get a little bit warmer. And like I said earlier, it moves up towards the heart. Now the liver is the mother of the heart. So see how it moves, right? So you'll start to see men have panic attacks and they think they're having heart attacks, and they're under a lot of strain and a lot of pressure. They tend to get headaches because they're more yang in nature. Things tend to move up because men are just naturally warmer. So the headaches is usually how it shows up, and it can show up as migraines. Migraines are 100% liver. Eye issues, again, things moving upward. So headaches, migraines, eye twitches, heart palpitations, and panic attacks tend to be how you see it in men. It would be great if men had periods because we'd know so much more about them. We'd have so much more guide, and we don't. So men have a tendency to mask their symptoms. It's even when they come in, how are you doing? I'm fine. Men, there's a lot there. So you have to really read the pulse and the tongue with men because they're not comfortable with talking about it. They don't like to be vulnerable most of the time. So it takes a couple sessions to really start to understand like what's going on with a man. But most men, you kind of got to pull it out of them over a couple sessions. But again, same stuff: agitation, aggravation, moodiness, depression. Men show a lot of depression with liver Qi stagnation because they naturally repress themselves anyway. So it's like they just suppress their emotions even more. And I think that that's where you see it with the men, mostly. Is there any other questions?
What other foods do you recommend one taking, or do you recommend also cleansing your liver once in a while?
I do recommend cleansing the liver, but I always recommend any cleanses to be done properly. There's a lot of cleansing on the market that is dangerous. It is purely draining and not supportive. The one thing in Chinese medicine is we don't ever just drain without supporting we call it support the correct, the upright Qi. If you're not holding things up and you're just draining, in a month, you're going to feel like garbage. You'll feel good initially because you took away all the usual suspects like sugar, dairy, all the things that make you feel sticky, and you'll feel great. But then you go a little too long and you drain a little too much, and next month all of a sudden your entire digestive system usually crashes. And that's where I see, and there's people who do juice cleansing, bad idea. Juice cleansing is nothing but sugar and no nutrients, and there's nothing supporting the cleansing of the liver and the kidney. So personally, when I do cleanses, I do it with medicinal food. So it's basically a shake. I've been doing this cleanse for probably about 10 or 15 years now. You do it for 28 days, which is a full cycle of a cell. So you're cleaning at a cellular level, you're cleaning and you are making the blood alkaline. So you're bringing all the acidity and the inflammation down in the body at a cellular level. You are also using the medicinal food for full nutrients, like making sure you get everything. You eat 1 meal a day and you do an elimination diet. So the 1 meal you eat is based on elimination. So you get rid of all the usual suspects, all the nightshades, and you only eat once a day. So you take a very low caloric intake. You take probiotics. So what you're doing is you're giving your digestive system a break as well from overloading it with foods and allergens. And then you increase the digestive microbiome with the probiotics. And then you do the shake, which supplements your nutrients if you're not getting it through your food. But what it also does is it helps bring your liver to a phase 2 liver detox. And that has to happen over 28 days. You can't do that in a week. And then it also supports the kidneys, which are both your detoxifying, right? Your detoxification organs. People feel so much better after they do that cleanse. But it's a really strong cleanse in the sense that you're doing it for you're committing to actually taking care of yourself. It's not that hard. It's mentally hard because how am I going to be social? You can totally be social. You just got to modify things. But doing a cleanse for like a week, I would do an elimination diet. I would stay away from doing cleanses that have 15 liver herbs in it because those are proprietary blends. They may not be right for you. So if you take it and you've got a liver disorder that one of those herbs can make worse, you're going to feel like garbage and you could actually do some damage. And I've seen it because there's a lot of herbal stuff on the market, but the people who run those companies are not herbalists. They're just people with money who jumped on a bandwagon for capitalism and health and wellness, which is a big problem right now. I don't know how it is in Switzerland, but here there's no regulations. Is there regulations on it in Switzerland? There is. So you have like the equivalent of a FDA kind of situation.
Do you want to talk? Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, you have regulation for supplements, and also as a practitioner, you have different things that you can say or not say, or
right, of course.
So it's quite.
I mean, here you can say you can't cure things. I can't say I cure anything, but the supplement world is dangerous. You know, in the sense that, but any formula that is made for the general public, in Chinese medicine, we would never do that because it's very tailored towards you. We would modify formulas. We would change them for you or your condition or your pattern. It's very specific. So always be really mindful when you're taking herbs or anything natural. Is this for me? And maybe should I get a practitioner to help me with this? Because you can do a lot. I've seen people come in and they've done a lot of damage with natural medicine.
And so how about foods?
So the foods, the liver likes sour. So anything that's got that sour flavor, lemons, anything like that, but also cooling foods. So, you know, all vegetables are cooling by nature. Cucumber is incredibly cooling. Jicama is incredibly cooling. Things like this, water bearing, are going to cool the liver off. If you do have a lot of heat in the liver and you're agitated and you're like ready to fire off at people, you got a little bit of heat, definitely stay off of alcohol and stay away from spicy foods. You know, if you're already feeling hot and agitated, stay away from spice for a little while. But cucumber in your water is wonderful. And as far as like herbs that you can take that I feel safe saying across the boards everybody's okay with, chrysanthemum is great. Chrysanthemum tea, I don't know, you might be able to find it there. You can find it here. It's in certain stores. Chrysanthemum tea is very, very cooling. It's also really cooling to the eyes and draws the heat away from the head and the eyes. So if you've got a lot of like headache or fiery eyes or any those itchy eyes, dry eyes, hot eyes, chrysanthemum is actually for the eyes. And if you look at a chrysanthemum, it looks like an eye. So that's why they use that. Milk thistle is great. You can just drink milk thistle tea all day and it'll help clean the liver. It's really, really mild. It's gentle.
What? Milk what? Milk?
Milk thistle.
What is that?
Milk thistle, it's just an herb, but you can find it in tea. It's a liver cleaner. So if it goes in the detoxification, but it's incredibly mild and it doesn't drain the liver and it doesn't affect the liver's moisture levels. Some of the herbs that are liver detoxers, they can make the liver very, very dry if you don't use them right. And that's why I see some of these herbs in some of these proprietary blends. And if you've got a different condition, it'll set a whole thing off. So that's why I'm very specific about this. Milk thistle is so mild that you can drink it as a tea all day and you're always helping your liver just slightly. And it's just very gentle. So that's totally fine. And chamomile, same. Chamomile is very similar, is chrysanthemum. And you can use that to help detox your liver as well. So those are like the foods. But like, let's see what else are sour foods. I'm not a huge sour food eater. So if it's sour and it makes your face pucker, it's great for the liver. As long as it's not Sour Patch Kids or candy.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are probably.
How about fermented foods? Fermented foods?
Fermented foods are great for everything, right? So they're pickled and they're kind of sour, right? They're astringent. Those are more for the kidney. But if you want to help the liver, you help the kidney. Because if you help the mother, you help the child. So, you know, that's why when you look at each season, knowing the cycles are really helpful. You want to know when you're in winter, you should be eating winter foods. That's the other thing. Eat for your season locally. If you live in a particular climate, unfortunately, like it's great that we can get certain things whenever we want it, but it doesn't mean we're supposed to be eating it. In the middle of the winter, you can get a watermelon. Do you want a watermelon? No, right? Because naturally your body is craving different things for your local region. Like you guys live in Switzerland, it's cold in the winter. Eating a watermelon would be like the worst thing for you. So what do? You eat nourishing, thicker stews, things that are easy to digest because you don't have a lot of energy in the winter. You're running on reserve and the kidney is very, very low energy and it's underground. It's just hanging out and trying to take in nourishment. So you would eat root vegetables, things that are easy to digest. It's okay if you pack on a few pounds in the winter too. I know nobody wants to say that, but that extra couple layers, there's a fire under you. The kidney is a fire. It's like your pilot light. So if you're putting in a lot of like salads in the middle of the winter, it's almost like you're pouring water on your pilot light. You want to eat warming foods. You want to eat warming foods that have spices in it to keep that energy warm. And then what happens is if your kidneys are stronger in the wintertime, your liver is much more likely to be ordered instead of disordered come spring. But if you wipe out your kidneys, there's really nothing helping your liver be ordered. And then you start to see the choppy nature of it. The liver has a choppy nature like springtime. You know, one day in spring, it's like 80 degrees. Then the next day it's 30 and freezing and windy. And then 2 days later, it's like snowing. And you're like, I thought this was spring. That is the choppy nature of the liver. If the liver is disordered, you'll see this like back and forth. It's very choppy. It's telling you that your liver is disordered. But also climatically, you'll also notice on days where it's windy, you don't feel as good. The liver doesn't like wind. So if you're feeling that, you've got a liver disorder. If the wind affects you adversely and you get agitated or you don't feel good or you're getting headaches and it's a windy day, your liver is already in disorder. Because otherwise, if your liver was ordered, the wind wouldn't bother it. I know that's a little strange, but it's associated with the liver as wind. That's why it moves things up towards the head. So,
interesting. So we have, what is with men when they have kidney problems?
Can we clarify with that question a little bit?
Yeah, Liv, do you want to speak maybe? Here we go.
Hi. I was just curious why men get kidney problems like out of nowhere. I don't know.
So the kidney energy is so The kidney is the first organ. If you were to look at a fetus, right? So they actually grow from their kidney out, right? So it's your oldest organ, or it's the powerhouse. It's the only organ that has two kidneys. It's also yin and yang, right? So, and because it's the seat of the Mingmen fire, and the Mingmen fire is like your Dantian or your Kundalini. It's referenced in different texts in different ways, but it's your base, it's your fire. So it's the thing that gives you all your energy, but it's also where your sperm comes from in a lot of ways. It's reproductive. It's also, for men specifically, it's their powerhouse in a way that is emotional, right? So men are very much about providing. If you look at it from the chakra system, I'll probably relate it to the chakra system. The chakra system is the base, right? It is your root value. It's your tribal belief systems. What are men but anything but tribal? Everything is about providing. Everything is about, can I provide? Can I keep going? It's your weaponry. It's sex, money, and power. It's your survival. And men are constantly pushing they're surviving in their own way. And they've been doing it for centuries. So they tax out. It's also the root of fear. So fear comes from the kidneys. Every organ system has an emotion set with it. The kidney is fear. So you'll see men's backs go out when they buy a house. They're concerned about their money. When they feel like they lost their job, all of a sudden you'll see kidney problems show up. Again, it's the root of fear. You don't know these things because men don't speak so much, but you see it in their bodies. Usually when men come in with kidney problems, I start probing around about what's going on emotionally, and you'll usually see there's a lot of fear based on survival. Whether it's, I gotta send all my kids to college, or, it's usually financial combined with survival, and that's where you start to see that. Also, men sit on their prostate. It's a tube. There's a lot of heat down there. There's a lot of sitting. If they're active, if they ride bicycles, that's where you start to see kidney problems as well. It's just a weaker organ for men. It's a kind of a weak organ for everyone, especially as you age, because you do lose that energy as you get older. It's not a replenishable energy the way. So kidneys have this thing called jingqi, and it starts before you're born, right? So it's kind of like DNA. Like you're born and you have your jingqi. If both your parents were super healthy and didn't have 7 kids, you probably have pretty decent jingqi. But some people, you notice they have children and their children are very weak, and they've had 4 or 5 kids, or they just don't have, some people would say they don't have great DNA, but we say they don't have really strong jingqi. Jingqi is what you were given at birth, and once you have it, that's all you have. There's only, there's a very limited amount. And as you age, you tap into that. So by the time you're 65, you have basically no more jingqi. So where do you obtain qi from is from the air and from food. So that's another reason why some people have more kidney problems, because jingqi comes from the kidney. So if they have a lot of kidney issues, they may have had weak jingqi from the beginning. And that's the other thing, is everybody is at birth has one organ system that's a little weaker than the others. We all do. It's okay. We just learn what our weakness is, and then we learn how to strengthen it. But everybody's got a little bit of weakness in some organ system. Some people it's their kidney, some people it's their lung, and so on and so forth.
Then from Graciela, when do you, I guess the cleanse, when do you start the cleanse? Which day of the period? Can you do sports during cleansing?
So I would not do it on your first day of your period. I would kind of time it out, because it actually helps your periods. Your periods get much, much better. So if you can do it where you just came off your period and then start it, and then you have another period at the end of the month, you'll notice your period gets much better. As far as like the blood is much cleaner, the cramping is much more minimal. It feels really good, actually. You'll probably have a really great shed. I only do those cleanses during the spring. And when I say spring, I mean it's warm enough. It's not about the calendar date. It's about, is it technically spring? Because if it's still chilly, you don't want to do a cleanse. Again, we talked about eating warming foods. If it's really cold out and you do a cleanse, you're cooling the body off a lot and you're putting out your kidney fire. You don't want to put out your kidney fire. You need your kidney fire. So I would do it towards the end of spring or in the beginning of fall. Never do cleanses in the summer, never do cleanses in the winter. It's just not, I mean, this is why you do spring cleaning and fall cleaning, because you're cleaning at the right time. It's a proper time to do it. I can share the recipes, or it's not really a recipe. You would have to order the food online, and then I can give you the diet. So if you want to email me privately, I can go ahead and give that to you.
You want to write down your email address here? So then, Mhm. So then basically right now, since there's a lot of angst going on, so when people are angry, it's because their liver is probably damaged because of all the stress.
Well, especially during this lockdown, globally, we're not allowed to do what we're normally supposed to do to move the liver qi. We've been locked in place and we've had no control. The liver is the general. Remember, he's got control. It's all about control. And you can't control what you do. Somebody's telling you you can't do things that you want to do. You're losing control. I mean, if you've noticed, the people who are having the most difficulty with shelter in place are the people who like to control things. You'll see them and they're just, their liver is so agitated because it can't express what it wants. It can't do what it wants. It can't move upward and outward. Even here, like when you tell people like, oh, you can't go to the gym, I thought people were going to have heart attacks, and it's because they need to move that liver qi. I mean, I don't know about Switzerland, but people in LA, we like to go out dancing. No one's allowed to even congregate to go dancing. So people are like, go dance at home. It's crazy, like just that little bit, how much that helps, like that movement. And it is like the yoga part. Yoga is someone else's, usually, unless you're a serious yogi and you create your own sequences. Yoga is someone else's sequence most of the time. It's very controlled and it's very linear. That is the last thing that the liver needs when it's stagnant. Someone else's sequence, you need to express yourself. Very, very linear. You need to move outward, right? Very, very controlled. No, you need to blow the top off of things, like literally. So again, you don't like yoga. I don't either, but I should probably do it anyway because I don't like it. But that's why martial arts is really good. That's why Qigong is really good, because it's designed for that. It gives you that expression. And if you ever notice how martial arts is done or Tai Chi is done, it literally is moving outward through the fingers, right? It's all the way out. And it's not squishing your body together into tiny little boxes, right? Like that is like the last thing you should do. Yeah, so.
Yeah, any other questions from anyone?
Anyone?
It's been amazing. I really learned a lot. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, so, now just know that we are actually moving out of the liver season towards the fire season. And that's the heart, right? That's full harvest. That's the ease of life. It's joy. That's the relationship with the organ system, is joy and lack of joy. So you don't see the extreme. You don't see sadness. You see lack of joy, which is just monotone. So just be mindful that the seeds that you plant now help with harvest later, right? So everything is seasonal. Everything is like, you can look at nature and see every single organ system. So what is the summer about? But it's about joy and ease, and about being able to take the fruit off the tree easily, because there's exogenous warmth. You don't have to work that hard to keep your body warm. That's why everybody feels great in the summertime. That and lots of vitamin D. So just think about that next season. Like if you're feeling like, oh, I don't really feel a lot of joy, or I don't feel at ease, or you're getting a lot of anxiety or something, there might be something going on with the heart. So each season, these are why when you know what happens each season, it's easier for you to help self-care when you know what you're looking at. So I hope you guys got some information out of this.
I certainly did. It was really, and I knew I would anyhow, but
Well, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask offline, please feel free to go ahead and email me. Thanks so much for letting me talk.
Can I ask a question now? Do you have like recipes or a plan for that liver cleansing? Or
no, see, that's the thing is, remember, I don't do anything unless I see someone because it can be dangerous. The foods are pretty straightforward across the board. Sour foods, the liver loves it. If you feel agitation and hot in your eyes or you're getting headaches, stay away from spice. Those are the basics.
That's what you said,
Yeah, and then the milk thistle, the chrysanthemum tea, and the chamomile are always good for everybody. There's nothing that I would feel cautious about saying don't take that, and that is good for the liver. But again, it's like stay away from too much alcohol. Too much sugar is a really big one for the liver. And that actually affects like your thyroid and your pancreas. Like the liver has a lot of other jobs to do that are involved with your thyroid. So Hashimoto's, autoimmune stuff. So sugar is, I mean, we all know sugar is dangerous as far as like how toxic it is. So just really be mindful of how much sugar intake you're taking. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
So this is like, how do I get an appointment with you? Do you do virtual meetings? I mean, is that possible?
I do virtual for herbal consults because I need to look at the tongue and just go through symptoms before I do any type of herbal diagnostics. Yeah. Again, like I said, I'm very, very conservative, more so than some, about natural medicine because in the States it's blown up and there's no regulation and there's people taking things that they shouldn't be. And there's a lot of people giving herbal recommendations that don't have credentials to do so. So I'm very cautious. Just always go get needles. If you have an acupuncturist, just go get your chi moved every 3 months. You know, at the change of every season is what I recommend, right? Because we humans have a really hard time with seasonal transition. And the two that are the hardest are always going to be summer to fall. It's literally the fall. So people are like, I feel depressed. You're not. It's just that the leaves are falling off the trees. You're going inward, but people don't like it. And you just came from the highest point. So it's a descent and it's a rough transition. And then the other transition is winter to spring because it's an ascendant. So even if you never get treatments, those are good times to get treatments. But I do recommend a change of every season. It just helps you transition.
Awesome. Great. Any other comments or questions? Anyone?
Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate this.
Oh, thank you, Angela, to begin your day with us.
I gotta go to work.
I loved it. No, it was amazing. I think we all got a lot of valuable information. And things that I personally didn't know. So, you know, you learn every day. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
That we're all done. Like everybody, no more questions. Thank you for coming on your Tuesday night.
Favorite way to be without fear is in